Hey, welcome back to another inductive study. This time we're on Mark chapter 3, verses 20 to 30, followership and effectiveness. You see that I've got Olive Tree open on the right with the NLT version and Evernote on the left. I've already done the inductive study, so I'm going to share it with you. If you have not yet read the text, go ahead and pause the video and read it. If you have already read the text, let's jump in. Mark chapter 3, verses 20 to 30, whole big text, man. This is where we start talking about the unforgivable sin, blaspheming against the Holy Spirit. This is awesome. This is huge. I love this text. What did I hear? Here's what jumped out to me as I read through that text. Crowds are being gathered again. Jesus and his lead team couldn't find time to eat. This is big. Family says about Jesus, he's out of his mind. Religious teachers are telling everybody that he's possessed by Satan. That's what they're saying of him. Jesus then, he begins to argue Satan can't drive out Satan. A kingdom collapses with civil war. Family feud falls apart. Family falls apart if they're feuding. Satan can't stand divided against himself. So to plunder a strong man's house, someone needs to be even stronger. Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is forgiving. Lots of stuff right here, and it's all interrelated. The whole thing is like this web of interconnected pieces that we need to look at all of it, because even as Jesus is saying, commenting about a family not able to stand together, his own family is coming, saying he's crazy, and he's also making reference to the temple cult as well, as they're out of their minds and coming to attack him. It's all interrelated. We're going to look at that. So what does it mean? First, the crowds are working against Jesus. The crowds are Jesus' target for his missional activity, right? It's the place of mission, except they're making it really hard for Jesus. And we've already talked about crowd culture and how crowd culture has shifted. And the crowd is now filled with kingdom aggressors and critics, people that are trying to throw Jesus off. So here's my thought about this. Busyness is not effectiveness. If you're like me and you're trying to plant something new, if you're trying to be an agent, if you're trying to reach people, busyness is not effectiveness. Large crowds do not indicate success or effectiveness. Jesus is demonstrating this. Large crowds sometimes indicate ineffectiveness, and we do see in this text that this large crowd is actually a place of ineffective ministry. Effectiveness is seen in the performance of regular gospel communication, kingdom agency, constantly, consistently testing for receptivity and influencing followership. Okay, so in my mind, this is where I need to live as somebody who's doing a new thing. Okay, I need to live here. That effectiveness isn't about advertising. It's not about calling people to this new church that I'm trying to build. I don't want a flock of Christians leaving their church and coming to this thing. That's not it. That's not effective. That's totally ineffective. Effectiveness is consistent gospel communication and testing for receptivity, inviting people to begin to follow Jesus, mentoring them, releasing them in agency. Effectiveness is on mission, and if it's not on mission, it's ineffective. Second of all, even Jesus can get trapped by the crowd. I can get trapped by the crowd. You can if you're trying to do something similar that I am. Jesus got trapped by the crowd. If Jesus can get trapped by the crowd of people who want too much from him and eventually, by the way, want to try to kill him, I can't hope to avoid the same experience. I'm going to find the same experience. Although crowds are to be targeted for gospel communication, the result will include both followership and also aggression. We have to know, as kingdom agents, as people who are trying to start a new thing, we have to know that kingdom aggressors are part of the package. People are not going to like us. If we want to lead, we can't be everybody's friends, right? And if everybody's our friend, then we're not leading. If everybody's our friend, then we're not sharing the gospel, because there are some people that will just get ticked off at gospel communication. If you don't have people that are ticked off at you, then you're probably not sharing the gospel like you should be. There should be some people around you that say, no, that's not for me. Okay, third, crowds result in both followership and aggression. To get the receptive, one needs to live within the aggressive. That's what I'm seeing Jesus is doing in the passage right here. Effective kingdom agency will reveal both followership and kingdom aggression. Both. Fourth, this is what I'm seeing in the text. This is what I believe I'm understanding in the text. Fourth, Jesus chooses to seek out crowds and engage with people, fully knowing that both followership and aggression will be the result. He's not shying away from the crowds because he knows he's going to get hurt. He knows he's going to get hurt, so he's moving towards the crowds. The aggression is worth followership, I think, is what's happening in the back of Jesus' mind here. He's creating a lead team to continue the work after these aggressors take him out. I'm seeing this in the text here. Fifth, lead teams seem to be essential because the leader seems to become so great a target that communicating to crowds becomes impossible. We need an exit plan. You and I who are sharing the gospel, you and I who are going to crowds at a grassroots level and just using our own friend influence, I suppose we might call that, we have to understand that it's the nature of the beast, right? It's the nature of the cult. We will wear out our welcome, and eventually the places that we're going to are going to be filled with so many people that just don't like us because they don't like the gospel, because they're arguing with God, quite frankly. And you know what? Those locations may include a lot of Christians as well that are just kind of nominal or off mission, or they just don't have a clue what's going on. We can't stay out our welcome. So what do we do about that? We create a lead team. And I think that we're going to see later on in the gospel that when Jesus overstays his welcome, what he does is he releases his lead team into those locations that no longer want him and want to connect with him. They still will connect with his disciples, so he releases them. It's a new face and it's a fresh voice. So he has an exit strategy, and he has an idea of what to do when a crowd no longer wants to connect with him. New leaders with new voices and new styles are needed to carry the message of the gospel forward under the radar. When you and I get too popular as the people that present the gospel all the time, and already people just tune our voices out, we need fresh voices to come right behind us and adding that new layer, that new level, that new style of communication to people. Sixth, if someone is effective at gospel communication, they will become a target. If someone is not targeted, it's because they're not reaching into crowds and communicating the gospel. Someone not targeted is someone who is not a kingdom agent. There's no room in the Gospel of Mark for people who share the gospel and don't get targeted. There's no room for that. People who share the gospel, all through the New Testament, people who share the gospel eventually will become identified as a target. And that was the culture that they lived in back then, and it's still the culture that we live in today. I mean, as nice as generally we all are toward one another, and as awesome a culture as a North American culture can be, at its finest moments. I know it's kind of seedy and dark in other moments, but we also do have it pretty good. In those fine moments, sharing the gospel, we're still going to find people that are aggressive to us and will tire of us and want to beat us up maybe a little bit. Seventh, the religiously minded are the source of the most intense kingdom aggression. We got to figure this out. We got to know this. The bulk of the kingdom aggressors comes from the religious minded. If you're sharing the gospel and if you're trying to plant a new thing, the bulk of your aggression is going to come from the church. Not in my backyard syndrome. That you might understand that, but I mean, Christians that are stuck in their ways and not understanding the rationale for a new thing that needs to be made, and just sees you as a potential threat that will ruin whatever they have set up. Most of the aggression, at least in this passage, it doesn't come from the Roman officials. It comes from the religiously minded people. The nominals don't care enough to be aggressive to gospel communicators as long as their needs are being met and they can stay status quo. You can share your faith to a nominal until your face turns blue. They just don't care one way or another. Followers in the lead team can't protect the leader from kingdom aggressors. It's impossible. However, future kingdom agents can carry on the mission. So you and I, as we are planning to do whatever we're doing and building whatever it is that we're building, I'm building for community. I hope you're building something cool as well. That's effective in leading people to Jesus. We have to understand this, that our time is limited. And we're going to overstay our welcome in a location, maybe. And so what do we do about that? Well, we got to build up other people around us, that when we're done in a location and it's already seeded with the gospel, then we can send in other people to sort of reap the benefit of all that. Jesus' family included themselves in the crowd as kingdom aggressors. Jesus comments that his family will fall apart, and it actually does. This is a very different Mary than what we see in religious movies. She is off mission, and she is trying to get Jesus off mission. Let's talk about the blaspheming of the Holy Spirit here, and let me just start by saying I totally don't understand the note about blaspheming the Holy Spirit, but I do have some guesses, okay? I have a couple of guesses. First of all, it's targeting kingdom aggressors. It's not targeting just the general people in the crowd, but the kingdom aggressors. This is going to be very important for us to recognize for the time ahead. Kingdom aggressors' attack on the mission is an attack on the Spirit, because Jesus is operating as a man in the Spirit's power and following the Spirit's leading. I think this is like only the second time in the Gospel of Mark that we're really bumping into who the Holy Spirit is, what the Holy Spirit does. So the first time is we see that John the Baptist was empowered by the Holy Spirit in order to be on mission and clear the way for Jesus. Here, Jesus now is operating in the power of the Holy Spirit, and so we bump into that again. The Holy Spirit empowers agency. That's what we see in the Gospel of Mark here. Now, Jesus is talking about these kingdom aggressors who are denying the power of the Holy Spirit that's flowing through kingdom agents. So it's targeting kingdom aggressors. Every kingdom aggressor is completely unreceptive and will never enter God's present kingdom here on earth. Okay, so thus the sin that will not be forgiven is the action of opposing the gospel. That's my guess. However, the comment seems to be addressed towards the critics, okay, the kingdom aggressors that don't immediately appear to include the nominals. So there are nominals in the crowd. We might even call them late adopters. They might just be observing Jesus, but this is really targeting the critics and the aggressors, who are the plotters and the pirates. The sin that will not be forgiven is the action of opposing the gospel. If you're opposing the gospel, if denying the present reality of God's kingdom, then there is no forgiveness for you, because you're never going to come into that kingdom. It's possible that Jesus still views the unreceptive part of the crowd as those who still have a chance to receive Jesus. I'm pretty sure he does. And he views the critics and the plotters and the pirates as those who have already made their choice. That's a possibility. The comment may be exclusively directed at the religious leaders who will take part in Jesus' death. Among those listening would have been Judas Iscariot too. All that to say that I think that I've uncovered more of what this means, the unforgivable sin, blaspheming the Holy Spirit, throughout later passages of the Gospel of Mark. And actually, it's not just the kingdom aggressors, but it's those who are blaspheming the Holy Spirit, denying that the Holy Spirit is working right now through agents of a present kingdom, that Jesus actually walks away, dust off his feet, and moves to another territory. So we're going to see this revealed more and more in passages to come. So just hold on to that right now. We're going to revisit this idea later on in the Gospel of Mark. What do I need to do as somebody who is planting a new community for community? What do I need to do? Well, again, I need to find crowds. I can't stop doing that. I need to find crowds to communicate the gospel with. Big crowds, small crowds, doesn't matter. I just need to find people. Expecting that there will be those who become followers and those who become aggressors. I need to expect both. I need to get my grit back up. It's grit, I think, is one of my best qualities. I need to continue to kind of grit up. I need to surround myself with a gospel communication lead team early in my planting plans in whatever I'm doing right now, so that when I become the target, my team can find new avenues of gospel communication among the crowd. So eventually, I'm going to hit this point where people are so used to hearing my voice and they just don't want to hear me anymore and they're pushing me away. Then I need to rise up people within what I'm doing for community who will then carry the message into those same places that have rejected me, that have not yet rejected them. They still have some form of receptivity in those groups. I need to guard my team against having kingdom aggressors within it. Although I have to acknowledge that there was a kingdom aggressor in it, and in Jesus' lead team, it was Judas Iscariot. I'm not entirely sure how to guard against this because people make their own choices and they can hide pretty easily, but as best as I can, I need to protect my lead team against kingdom aggressors. Here's my summary. Kingdom agency effectiveness isn't found in the size of the crowd. It's found in constant gospel communication, testing for receptivity, and influencing followership. It's also found in critics and plotters. It's not about the size, it's about the work. People most effective at reaching the lost will be most targeted by everyone. That includes both the lost and the religious, and actually particularly more so the religious people. Okay, that's it for me today. And if you haven't found a community yet to connect with, please consider connecting with For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. If you're thinking about planting your own thing, please connect with us as well so we can join you on the initial part of your journey, and that would be totally awesome. Thanks for at least considering that. Now, reach out, leave a comment if you want to. Love to engage about the text. Hopefully you see things differently than I do. Okay, that's it for now. See you next time.